Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. I do hope you're having a good day. Yes, reason why I'm doing this recording before this podcast episode. I'm not too sure what happened on my side of things, but about a good hour and 10 minutes of the footage was lost. Yeah, which is a pain in the backside to say the least. But this podcast with Jim Edwards, good friend of mine, I still feel holds value. So yes, it's about 20 minutes long, half an hour. My apologies for this. Technical difficulties will always happen. Somewhat like my speaking right now, but yeah, please enjoy the show and yeah, let me know how it goes. Anyway, have a good one. Enjoy this show and yeah, thank you for listening. Bye bye.
Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 342 is the welcome return of Jim Edward. Last time he was here, he was promoting his book. Thank you for everything. And today he is back. I in his new company where he is editor in chief in Money In Two. And that's the number two, not the word two. How are you today, sir? How are you today?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Thanks for having me back. I do appreciate it.
Yes. Like this is the thing, like people, I haven't seen this man in person in the flesh for almost 6 years. And like, you know what? Every time now he comes to me, he's shilling something.
Gosh,
Oh no, no, look, put it this way. The book, love the book. Got it on audio, listening to it.
nice.
Fascinated by the cardboard company, which let's just say, like it made 30 grand back in like the 90s, and it's still making 30K today, more than likely. So nightmare. Oh, oh.
Yeah, the cardboard company is actually one of the reasons I started Money in Two, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So I have to ask because last time you here, it was about the book. How is the book doing?
The book did pretty well, actually. Like the book paid the rent for about 2 years, so I was pretty happy at that.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Like, what was the sort of major surprise, like after the sort of like you did the book and you know what I mean, the journey going on from that. What was it? Was there any sort of major surprise for you inside?
In terms of doing the book, um, it got one major surprise is how difficult it is to promote a book. Um, It's a very crowded market, that it's a lot of hard work. It was arguably more work to promote the book and market it than it was to write it. That was interesting.
Oh,
So I would warn anyone who wants to try and write a book, you're gonna spend more time working on it after it's published than you probably spent writing it, which is interesting. They don't really warn you about that. Um, I was really happy that it got a good reception, it got good reviews. It still got 5 stars on Amazon, I think. Um, I got a lot of lovely feedback from it. A lot of readers wrote me personal notes saying, "Thank you for this." Like one woman read it, and there's a chapter in it on how to negotiate a pay rise, and she was like, "I just got a pay rise because I read your book."
brilliant.
Like, fantastic. That is exactly why I wrote the book. Um, so that stuff was, yeah, all that stuff was lovely. I was, I was terrified when it launched because I really thought maybe there would be something in there that was like controversial or people wouldn't like, and that I would, get dragged on social media and people would make fun of me and stuff like that. And there was nothing like that, actually. So I was kind of paranoid about that. Um, yeah, and I'm still happy with it. Every now and again I have to pull it off the shelf to look something up because people ask me something and I'm like, oh, I wrote a book about this. Well, can't remember what it said now. And I'm glad that, like, it still reads pretty good. It's a couple of years old now. It's still pretty current. And most important of all, to any writer, when I read it back, I don't cringe.
No, not no. Like this is very no. The challenge of promoting a book, getting it out there. amongst, what can I say? As you said, a crowded market. I would say sometimes a noisy market, just trying to get that sort of nugget of quality,
Yeah, and
get some,
I got some decent press coverage, um, but the thing for me that was difficult psychologically is that in promoting a book, what you have to do as the author is go personally to people in the media and basically say, "Please, will you talk about my book? Please, will you mention my book? Please, can I be on your podcast?" Or stuff like that. And so it's just about self-promotion, and it's that for me, that is extremely uncomfortable. I hate it. I would much rather sit behind the scenes and not I mean, I love talking to you, Miwa, but, you know, sort
so,
of like contacting podcast hosts and going, "Please, can I be a guest?" You know, this for me is like, sort of, psychologically uncomfortable. But it is the way that the media business works now, and there's no other way around it. And you know this as the host of a podcast, you know, you've got to put yourself out there, otherwise no one cares.
oh, like this is the thing. In this sort of era which we live in, which does have self promotion, but as you say, like you were like quite pleasantly surprised that there was no sort of negative like feedback or anything like this, or anything that would make you like rake you over the coals, which can easily happen because there are some people with the voice of reason switched off many moons ago. Yeah, like yeah, putting yourself out there, like being that sort of tall poppy in a crowd is especially difficult. I would say, well, within the UK, and
Yeah.
it's
It's a very un-British thing. Like,
yes,
British people are very often crabs in a barrel, right? You know, we'd much more comfortable pulling each other down than we are, helping each other climb out.
yeah, and it's one of those things where you never realize how affected you are by it. You might not go, I don't have that in me. But the whole no Schadenfreude, which creeps in when you see, like, yeah, someone who gets pulled down. "Oh, you see what happened? Rather than sort of like, come on, that could have been me or someone I know.
The pleasant surprise, though, for, for your listeners who are thinking about this, and I bet you've had the same experience doing a podcast, is that when you do it, when you put yourself out there, as long as you've been reasonably thoughtful and you're not a total asshole, people like it.
Oh,
People are like, "This was great. Thanks for doing that."
mm,
People are like, I thought that was fantastic. People like you. People are not against you trying to entertain them or make them think or, give them help or inspire, your podcast is about inspiring people. People are not against that.
I no, like this is the thing. I would say you people don't realize when you put like something good out there, it's rarely sort of comes back to you immediately. It sort of goes out, wanders around, like bit like the littlest oboe back in the day. That's an old timey TV show reference. Like does its good, moves on, does its good, moves on. By the time it comes back to you, it's evolved and changed so much. It's like you don't realize it. You put that out there, and it came back to you
You,
not
you,
like years down the line,
and you don't know how many people you're touching. You're probably touching more people than you think. Like I had one of the best moments from doing the book was I got a message on Instagram from a guy I met through work a long time ago, and he just said, "I just found out that my wife, who I've never met his wife, he said my wife has bought 5 copies for this for the 5 copies of your book for the team she supervises at work, and she had no idea that we knew each other." So I was like, "That's great."
Yeah. But like this is the thing. I love that. You had a real positive impact with the book, and it like led to who knows how much change out there in the world. Should
So
be proud of.
lots of people, the one change it did make, which is perhaps not the most massive change, but a lot of people basically said it's a. By the way, for your podcast listeners, it's a book of management advice for new managers. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's called "Say Thank You for Everything," and a lot of people said to me, at work, I did start saying thank you to people, and I didn't realize that I wasn't saying thank you to people at work. before, and they were like, "You're right. People appreciate it. People want to hear it."
Well, no. Like this is the thing. The small things are always the things what count. It's like, yeah, with everything, fundamentals. And like when I say the fundamentals, like being like a fundamental of being kind is just like saying thank you, please, like good manners, and yeah, eats a good thing. Now, now this is the thing with all of this. Now, you could like you said he went for 2 years, which is fantastic. You could have went in the realm of speaking. You could have went into the realm of writing another book. You could have went. There was a myriad of things you could have even started your very own podcast. But mm, but, but like yeah, what what drew you back into editorial again, but a newsletter?
I mean,
Oh,
editorial stuff has been my whole life.
yes.
Um, I would not overestimate how much money there is to be made in book publishing. Let me put it that way. I mean, the book did nicely, but I'm not yet driving a Lamborghini. Put it that way.
I thought you'd be like bottles in the club. Yeah, friend. Like, come on.
And I didn't want to write a second book just because the first one was successful. I wanted I would like if I'd had like a really good idea for a second book with like really solid material, that would be different. But I don't want to like write a second one just because there needs to be a sequel. It's I mean, we've all seen that when, the second book, the sequel is just never as good as the first, and obviously the author wrote it because, first one was successful. So I didn't really want to do that. And I wanted to work with. So after the book was published, I have a consulting business where I give advice to newsrooms, and often they're startups, and certainly they're digital newsrooms. And I really wanted to do a startup of my own. So, I got together with a couple of other people and we created a company, and here we are trying to run a little startup.
Trying to run a little star because how does this majorly differ from what you were doing from Business Insider? Because very famous publication, Business Insider.
Yeah, so it's completely different, I think. Business Insider is a news service, obviously, mostly covering business news, and it certainly has a personal advice section, but its main task is a news service like the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal or any of those guys. Money in Two, my new company, is purely a personal finance, savings, and investment newsletter. Basically, there's a website too, but it's a newsletter. It's targeted basically at British people. It's targeted at younger people. A sort of rubric we have is we're trying to tell people everything we wish we had known when we were 25 about money, about how money works, and about how to become wealthy and get financial security and independence, right? Which is doable. Like, it is a perfectly possible thing for anyone to do. But before you can tackle it, you have to know how money works. And most people, particularly in Britain, most people do not know how money works. I was reading a statistic the other day. Company did a survey. 73% of British people fail a financial literacy test. And
I'm surprised it's 73. I would expect it to be a lot worse. It's like, seriously.
Well,
yeah.
the scarier statistic is that a different company did a survey of teachers and asked them what percentage of the children you teach know enough about money or know what they should about how money works. And the teachers responded 1% of children, by the time they leave school, know what they should know about how money works, which is really interesting because you spend years and years in math class, right? And maybe it's changed, but you spend years and years in math class, but often very little of maths class is about personal finance and the money that you will personally handle and have to spend or save or invest, and how it might work for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, because like this is the thing. Look, I'm like both here, sitting there as Gen Xers, blah blah blah. Like, but it wasn't like that when we were in school. Personal finance, like responsibility, like knowing what you need to know, non-existent. Don't think it was like that when my lady was in school. She's a millennial, and like it's just gone on all the way because like this. I think you should aim it for a younger age, like soon as you hit 18, because one of the first things what happens to you if you do go to university is they slap you with a credit card like that in an instant, and it's like, yeah, huh, and like get in the hole very quickly because like financial education literacy, it's not even a thing. It's not even a thing, and it takes most people make a huge mistake, get into a whole world of debt, put themselves behind the hole, where then, like, by the time they get a handle on it, they put themselves several years behind where they could be.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. So university and tuition fee debt, that stuff is really difficult. And so very simply, if you have student loans in Britain, as you know, you have to pay them back. And there's a government scheme where they take a certain percentage from your paycheck, right? But it's
Mm.
linked to how much you earn. And if you earn not enough, if you earn below the threshold, they don't take any. And I can't remember what the percentage is, but they take a percent. And if a certain number of years goes by, the debt is basically forgiven, but you basically can't get out of it. And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, well, I should pay off my student loans first and then start saving for myself and investing. And
Mm.
I would argue that this is a mistake because it's first of all, that debt is linked to your income. The richer you are, the more you'll pay, but the poorer you are, the less you'll pay. So no other debt works like that. If you have a mortgage or a credit card debt or an overdraft with the bank doesn't link your repayments to, how well you're doing at work.
Hey, Frankie, I see you're a little bit hard up this month. You know what? We're gonna cut that payment in half.
Yeah, well,
Off you.
why don't you skip a month and get back to us? I mean, no, there's no other debt where anyone says that, but there is with student loans. So I would argue that student loan debt is something you can let ride, as long as you are, being financially responsible in other areas, particularly if it gets you on the path to regularly saving and investing for yourself and for your future. But I think a lot of people make the mistake where they're like, I've got to pay off the debt first. This is a classic thing, right? One of the classic, most simple problems in personal finance is, do you pay off debt first or do you start saving? And almost always the advice you will get is you should pay off debt first because debt is more expensive than what you get from saving, right? And as a matter of maths, that is true. But in the UK, we have this unique situation with student loans where they're linked to your income. So it's actually not quite true in the UK. And you would be well advised to get on the path to saving while you are paying off that debt, because that you can't, unless you win the lottery, you're not going to shake that student debt anytime soon anyway.
No, I hear that. But like this is the thing, that's all ties into like the realm of cash flow. And like like where like you're like what you're talking about. Uh, I understand that from what you're saying. Yeah. Let it ride,
Yeah.
your savings there. It's a way of just manipulating the system in some respects to just help like savings flow. Fine. But the amount of people which don't understand cash flow. I had a friend, like she was like every month behind because just dipping into overdraft. She took out a loan for like, I think 3 grand or something like that. A large amount of money in the sort of grand scheme of things. But she went, okay, I'm gonna pay it back in a year's time. It was like, rather than sort of spread it out over a longer period of time, admittedly there would have been interest, but she just tied up every little bit of her sort of cash flow each and every month. It was like, so it sort of,
Did she pay it off though?
she paid it off, I believe, but it was a harder year than it should have been, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. It did.
So
Well,
it was
I
like,
think it depended on how bad her interest rate was. I mean,
um,
so if you're borrowing $3,000 and the bank wants 5%, I can see your argument for spreading that thing out because the monthly payments would be so small that it wouldn't harm your lifestyle, kind of thing. But interest does compound, and if she'd borrowed that at 15%, I'd say actually, yeah, pay it back as soon as possible because 15% is, and that's a credit card rate, right? That's like really
Yeah.